This is Chicken Ball. Come at us, bro.
Welcome back to the Chicken Ball Pod. I'm your host, Andrew. Happy Easter if you're celebrating today, if you had the day off. A rarity that I actually get a day off with a pod, so that means that I get to drink beer today and everybody else has to shut the fuck up and listen to me for a change as I rant about things that don't actually make sense. But I digress. Mort, coming to us from a nice little backdrop there. How's your weekend been?
Well, the weekend was fantastic. Beautiful weather here in wonderful Wisconsin. We're turned the corner, so it's 70. The lake is finally defrosted, so the boat goes in this weekend, and then the jet skis go in the following weekend, and it's game on, baby. So phenomenal weekend. Very, very disappointed in the result, but significantly more disappointed in our fan base, and I'm sure we'll talk about that soon.
We will. We're going to pivot over to Scott here, and Scott coming also from the Pacific Northwest. And Scott, I think I figured out this weekend, why you're on so many podcasts. Whereas Mort and Ryan and I all have children who scream at us all the time and have no rational thoughts of their own. So you need to fill that void by joining other podcasts.
Absolutely, man. I have free time, okay, and when Spurs do that kind of shit, you know why that is. So I will say though, I through all my Spurs conversations, I've had a lot of time to think about some dudes that are not total fucking losers that have played for Spurs. This man right here, all right, I know we sold him. Nasser Chadley, for those who are only listening. The shirt's a little beat up, but a 40-year-old Nasser Chadley is a hell of a lot better than most of the shit that plays for Tottenham at the moment. So bring that fucking guy back, man. He'll bury a goal and spit in your face. That was aggressive, but he'll fucking bury a goal and up the Nasser Chadley. So
I love Nasser Chadley.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Scotty, you conveniently ignored that one point in Andrew's comment about having to replace your lack of children and their asinine questions. He kind of replaced that with other pods you're on. Is there anything you want to say about that? Do you want to answer that question, or are you gonna keep fucking ignoring it?
That's fucking bait, and we're gonna move on from that one. All right, that is bait, and there's a meme for that somewhere.
There absolutely is. Well, guys, a 2-2 loss, as I'm going to call it. It was a pretty ugly match, right? Like it had the feelings up until the 85th minute where we were going to say, well, 3 points are all that matters. It was ugly. Newcastle outplayed us, and then obviously we got hit back by another hilarious defensive mistake, almost as hilarious as the first, where Tanganga kicks the ball against one player, Sanchez kicks it against another player, ball's in the back of the net. Harry Kane clearly bailed us out the way he does. I don't think we need to go down that road of him being possibly the best player in the world right now. And if he's not the player of the season, I don't actually know what the point of a player of the season is, because he just continues to just bring us back out of absolutely nothing. But more, starting with you, looking at how we set up for this game, I think most people expected Son to be back since he was training for about a week, and I don't believe he had to play internationals. But Mourinho stuck with Vinicius up front, so I didn't even notice him until a couple of minutes into the game because I was watching on delay, so I didn't see the opening lineup announced. But what were your thoughts when you saw Vinicius up top for a second Prem game in a row?
I when the lineup came out, I was happy. I was not ecstatic. I would have preferred to see Vinny on the bench. I would have preferred to see Lucas in the middle. And I would have preferred to see Bale out on the right, Sonny on the left. That's what I would have loved to see. I think with Sonny being injured or not being fit to start, which is again very normal. You got these fuckies. By the way, we need to introduce everyone to this term, fuck goose. That's singular. Fuck geese is plural. And that is for a Tottenham fan who has no fucking idea what they're talking about, yet they have the audacity to say whatever the fuck they want. I think Scotty mentioned there's a podcast he's on regularly that does that quite often, but I'll let him talk about that later. So when the lineup came out, I would have liked to see Sonny out there, but he wasn't fit to start. That's fine. My concern with that lineup, Andrew, was I did not know how we were going to handle how narrow that lineup was going to be and how we were going to deal with our attacking channels in their final third. And I think a perfect example of that is that picture that keeps going around of Lamela going up the middle. He's got Kane flanked on his left. He's got Sonny flanked on his right. And the three of them are literally running in the same channel. And then two of them split up into the half spaces, and Lamela has no idea which player to go to. Now, someone like Nasser Chadley would have known that he should have gone to Sonny in that case because he's on the right. He has more space. He has a better angle. Also, his strong foot. But that's what happens when you have these minor setups. So I think Jose has to take some like blame for this. He has to take some blame for the setup. Is you set up a very narrow lineup and it congested your central channels, and we saw the impact of that in a very critical point of the match. So there's blame there, but Andrew, all these fuck geese out there are trying to blame this on the tactics, and beyond that initial blame you take, this yet again is squarely on the fucking shoulders of these disgusting fucking players who refuse to take responsibility for their ineptitude and their actions. That last goal, every single one of our back line fucked up. Tanganga does not contest the cross. Reggie does not contest the in ball, and he lets the player get a free shot. Rodon overcommits, and Sanchez literally runs into Rodon. Like every single one of our defensive players allowed Joe Arsenal Willock to come in and score the tying goal in a match that we had no business fucking winning. But that doesn't matter. Stop talking about how many shots they had. How many goals did they have? They had one fucking goal. We had two with 5 minutes left, and we conceded another fucking goal. The mentality of these fuckies is disgusting. And I am so sick and tired of these players not being able to see out a fucking match. If anybody starts to question the setup, we literally went for them. We had more passes, more possessions, more passes in their half. They had more long balls than we did. They were the countering team. We were the attacking team. No matter how we set up, we still make these stupid fucking mistakes. And I will just say this one more time. If you look back at the best stretch of games this team has had the entire season, it was in the early part of the season when we were sitting in first place, parking the goddamn bus, because we can only defend as a unit. We cannot defend as individuals. Hence, the whole team has to get back and defend. That's the only way we keep goals out. And then we pray to fucking God that a long ball finds Kane or finds Sonny and we score a fucking goal. And when we did that, we were in first place. Now we play open football and we cannot see Steve fucking Bruce out with 5 minutes left on the goddamn clock. So I told you I was not going to bitch too much, but I wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, and you nicely did hit the definition of fuck goose, or fuck geese being the plural. And a fuck goose is somebody who thinks they know what they're talking about and then continues to talk. Like, if you're dumb but you don't really, make a stink about it, then you're not a fuck goose, right? Like, keep it to yourself. But Scott, without naming names, coming from the other pod, also known as Fuck Geese United, what are you seeing out there? Again, like, I'm not asking anybody to throw shade at anybody particular, but I think it is worth talking about. I mean, this fan base is split. I don't know if it's 50-50. I've seen some fuck geese saying that it was 80% of people who are Spurs fans wanted Mourinho. That's a great number to just pull out of your ass. But what are you seeing out there? Because again, you do have a lot of contact with different fan groups, different people across Spurs Twitter land. Like, what are you seeing? Like, what are your reactions to it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and as much as we like to give me shit for my numerous podcasts, I think I appreciate the question. I think I'll start by saying, as somebody who's been pretty outspoken about my desire for Mourinho to be at the club, which it's crazy that I have to establish that that's a thing, like it's fucking Jose Mourinho. But yes, I've been vocal about the fact that I want Jose Mourinho at my club. I get a lot of people will come right back and say, I complained about the tactics yesterday. And as Mort said, it's such a fucking product of the modern game. Like, you can get the tactics wrong for a half of football and still be a very talented manager who should be at your club. Our center backs were very isolated yesterday, 100%. Like, things could have gone better. But as you guys said, very, very, specifically and put very well, Mort, we have to defend as a unit. We can't defend as individuals, and we're seeing that. And so I think, to answer the fuck geese question, I think what a lot of fans, have come to is a conclusion that the anti-Mourinho bias from day one was always going to lead them to. It was always going to be tactics. It was always going to be, his age, I think, is what people or they age his tactic. I'm not quite sure what the whole deal is. He's very polarizing, right? We know that. So the conclusion that all of these fuck geese have come to was they were always getting to that conclusion, like no questions asked, right? And I don't mean to sound pompous, but the people who understand the game that I know really well seem to be the ones who understand that Mourinho needs to be at our club, and that there's a cancer amongst the players at Tottenham. If you don't feel that way, you could very well not be a fuckgeese in my opinion, but I'm not going to draw a line. It's gray, but there's a lot of people who just don't really seem to understand the game that want Mourinho out. And maybe with time they'll come to feel differently. But when you look at football, where we're at as a club, where we are at as Tottenham, I just don't understand how you would ever want the guy out. Like I think one of two things happens. Mourinho leaves, Kane is gone. Like he has zero reason to be at Tottenham. And people
And
say
Sonny.
yeah, no doubt. And people on Twitter seem to think that Mourinho's going to push those guys out. No. If he leaves, they're fucking gone. Mourinho's going to push out the shitty players that we don't need anymore. And the people that are being vocal to the media about their discontent are the people that we need to fucking go anyway. So, like, sure, be discontent with Mourinho, go. Because if you understand the game and have followed the history of soccer and Mourinho specifically, you'll see that everywhere he's gone, he came in, he was fucking polarizing, he split the fan base, he literally pushed players out of the club that were getting in his way, and then he won like 4 or 5 titles and then left a couple years later. Like, yes, he polarizes, he divides opinion, he splits things, he gets fuck geese out of his way, he wins titles, and then you move on. And I don't know like how a Spurs fan is beyond that, like we've begged for titles for so long, we have a real chance to do something with that, and I think we'll talk about what we need to do to get there, but to think that we would start all over again with someone else is just asinine. And for somebody like one of the three of us who have been following this club for, at least a decade or whatever it is, like, I just don't have the gut to go through that again, man. Like, not right now. So anyways, it just doesn't. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, man. I think you bring up a really, really good point, and I really want to get both of you guys' opinion on this, because one of the things I keep hearing, and I think Scotty, you said it with the whole age thing, that he's aging out, or somehow his tactics are tired, and you're getting this from a lot of big Twitter accounts, right? And I'm not afraid to name them like you, Scotty, because I know bitch. But people like Nathan Clark, his work is phenomenal. Used to love reading a lot of his stuff. And Windy, right? These are people I'm listening to for the better part of a decade, and now you've got these people saying things like, "Oh, his tactics have aged out." Okay, the guy was managing in this league 3 years ago. Okay, so stop making it sound like he hasn't touched a managerial job in a decade. It's 3 fucking years when he was at Manchester United winning 3 trophies. So do me a solid. Since Mourinho left, name all the managers in the Premier League since he left, or even when he was here in his tenure, that have won 3 or more trophies. 2 fucking people. One of them won the Champions League final, right? And the other one's going to win the league again this year. That's it. So So people that say that he's aging out in his it's 3 fucking years, and nobody has been able to do, except for 2 guys, what his aged out tactics did just 3 years ago. So yes, the game evolves, the game changes, and I love to see it change and evolving. But guess what? It's not like he's a dinosaur. It's not like he forgot how to manage. The guy is still the most decorated manager ever. And I just don't understand why people can't see these why fuckies can't see these simple things.
You make a great point, and one fact tells me blatantly, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of all these ways to build this stuff, but one fact simply points to
the word is
everything
fucking.
You just said. Anti-fuggies is what this stat is. All right. Harry Kane has 49 goals and assists this year.
Never heard of him.
Mourinho's tactics have led to Harry Kane potentially winning the Ballon d'Or. One player is close to him in goals and assists, Lionel Messi at 48, so one less. But to come in and say that we have an issue with the way that we've set up this season, and Harry Kane is going to probably put himself in contention to win the Ballon d'Or, maybe actually win it, and have easily the best season of his career. It just doesn't add up. And I agree with you, man. Like, there's people on the internet who I have a lot of respect for that are just showing some really silly bias, and it makes me question like how they even got to the point they're at. And I don't mean anything by that, but they're looking past some very obvious things that would tell me that you understand the sport of soccer. It's weird, man. We're in a tough spot as a fan base.
Yeah, I mean, like I was arguing with a fuckoose earlier today, and I wasn't even going looking for an argument, but it was his commentary was all around, the cult mentality of the Mourinho in people. And I said, well, when Mourinho came in, I didn't think he was the solution, but I also don't think he's the problem, and that remains true right now. I really don't think he's the source of the problem. His response, well, I just can't understand how you would ever feel that way. So I politely said, okay, so new manager comes in tomorrow. What changes? He's like, well, tactics and style and players, feeling like they're wanted. I'm like, oh, so all of that is going to make Davinson Sanchez and Japhet Tanganga, not turn the ball over on a goal kick. That was Mourinho's fault. I didn't realize that. And I replied back saying, but you can't give me one tangible thing, one tangible change that's going to make, because Pochettino got the sack. We all thought that a new manager was going to get more out of that group of players. And you could argue both ways that, Mourinho probably has gotten slightly more out of this group of players. But if he can't get it, what makes you think some other fuck who's coming in is going to do it?
They won't. They won't, Andrew. They won't. And I think that's it. I mean, the solution. Okay, listen. Everyone is culpable, right? At the club, right? You can probably put some blame on the kit manager, because maybe the kits are not being washed as frequently as they should be, or they're not laying. I mean, you could. I mean, if you wanna put blame, you can find blame. But also, Jose Mourinho, his ability to manage the squad and make sure he's getting the best out of them, and the players who are simply unwilling to fight for the badge. So the blame is top to bottom. But I think you're right. Replacing the manager will not change anything. These players must be. You will still need to bring in new players. So the question arises: who would you rather have managing your club? Some guy who's won more trophies than your entire club, or some dude in the fucking German league who has never won anything, but everybody's obsessed with him? Why? Where's the logic in that? Let the most winningest manager in the history of his league, or rather, like across his career. Global pandemic. I thought that we've had a couple of good transfer windows. We need at least one more really good one.
Yeah.
We're 2 points from fifth. Calm the fuck down. It's ridiculous.
That's just it right there. People out there will compare our situation to other rough moments in the last 3 or 4 years, namely when Poch was sacked. We are well within fourth place, and we are well within the League Cup. And to think that we could be on the verge of top four and a trophy, and hear things like, the club's in a bad place and we need to sack the manager, it's just very strange to me, man. Like, when Poch was sacked, we had taken 11 from 39 points. 39 times 3 is a lot more than 100. That tells me that at that rate we were getting relegated. We were straight up getting relegated when Poch was sacked, mathematically. And right now we're on the cusp of fourth and a trophy. So those are two very drastically different situations to be in as a club. And on top of those differentiations, the latter of those two comes with a manager who has won everything, everywhere he's been, including his most recent position. It's fucked up, man. I just don't understand. It makes me curious as to, again, how some people who are well respected got there, because it's just such a blatantly obvious thing to me. And again, I want people to have different opinions than me. They should, but I just don't know how you can feel differently. I really don't. But it's probably a product of modern football and the world we live in, and everybody just wanting immediate everything all the time. And I don't even mean
it's a product of time. Shitty podcast churning out shitty content that you're a part of, Scott. You are part of the
people hiding behind avatars and shit. Yeah.
Jose players Scott on all of his podcasts. That's a blame ladder right there.
Yeah. Well, and again, negative news sells, right? So, everybody sees what Arsenal fan TV does, and yeah, it's a shit channel. And any of the Arsenal fans that I know are not a fan of it, but plenty of people do watch it, and those dudes get paid. And then you've got like the Nathan Clarks out there, who again, I enjoy his content as well. I'm not trying to throw shade at the dude for what he's been able to build, but you look at when you post polarizing stuff like that, like it does get more clicks. And like I can't find anybody just to back it up. Like again, like you replace the manager tomorrow, what do you think changes? Like, do you suddenly think this back four? I mean, like even Reguilon yesterday was terrible. Like that had to have been the worst game that we've seen him play. Like the best player was Joe Rodon in that back four. And what does that say to you when we took a guy out of the championship who I think will be a decent professional, but like let's not pretend that he's going to be Vincent Kompany or something, right? Like he's our best defender. Like does that not show you again how poorly we've recruited, how poorly we've purchased? And like you talked about more the managers who have won multiple trophies. Look at Liverpool, and obviously Liverpool have Virgil van Dijk out this year, but like this is the first season they have had catastrophic injuries compared to every other team in the past 3 or 4 years. And now all of a sudden they didn't get to go out and play FIFA and buy players left, right, and center. Their window shut. Guys like Salah and Mane, they're still great players, but they're not what they were. All of those players are still good, but they're on the decline. Like unless you spend like Manchester City does every year, like your window to win is very, very small. That's certainly how I felt with Pochettino, and it wasn't his fault that Levy didn't go out and buy some players like Liverpool did to get us over the top. That's not on Pochettino, right? Like I think it was time for Pochettino to leave, but it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, but it wasn't Pochettino to start Sonny as a fucking left wing when you have Danny Rose on the bench and Davies on the bench.
Yes.
Dude, you're 100% right. And I think that's another part of this. And I think we're also to blame for this, right? We do think about the past a lot. We're doing a lot of comparisons, but I mean, let's look at the future, right? So we got 8 matches left, I believe. 5 are at home. We only play one top side, which is United next week, and I think everybody else we play is a little bit further down. We do play Everton still, who drew today.
We do play Leicester.
We should play Leicester again? Really? Okay, all right. So then, so we've got a couple of good teams we're still going to play at. But again, we have United at home, right? So there's our advantage. We have the 3rd or 4th best home record in the league. So I think that's what we have to focus on. Like Scotty said, we're a couple points out of top 4. We've got a League Cup final still coming up. We got to stop listening to these fuckies and just focus on what's in front of us, which is many, many accomplishable goals. I think it would have been nice to beat Newcastle. We should have beat Newcastle. We must beat teams like Newcastle if we're serious about top 4. But drawing Newcastle does not take us out of the top 4 debate. It does not. And I think that's the most important thing. If you suddenly have this loser's mentality, then what's the point of going out and really harassing United and trying to get some points off them?
Yeah, and in order to do what we need to do this year, like I really, really think we need top 4. Like I don't think it's like gonna ruin us by any means. But God, it would be so nice to have, right? But because here's my thought. So before I say that though, what we need to do, we need to play a low block. We need to play a football. We need to do it. We need to win football matches. If we get top 4 in a trophy, just think about these hypotheticals, right? Like we got our trophy, we needed it. Top 4, we all know what that does. Transfers, cash, blah, blah, blah. Harry Kane, 49 goals and assists. Let's just say he wins the Ballon d'Or. Jose Mourinho gets top 4, a trophy at Spurs, and his striker is the Ballon d'Or winner. Come to me. Like who the fuck wants to come play with Harry Kane? Come. Like, and that's when we will see if Levy steps up. Like I'm a fan of Levy. I have been. I love what he's done off the field. That's why we're at where we're at as a club right now. But more needs to be done on the field. No one's going to argue that anymore, myself included. So, like, let's go. But if we can get top 4 in the trophy, and hypothetically Kane wins that thing, like, we could have a really big window. And Jose Mourinho is our manager. And I don't know, man. There's a lot to look forward to. But we're going to have to play a pretty standard, low block, unattractive style of football because, as Mort said, that's what we have the personnel to be able to do right now. And Mourinho understands that.
I'm curious to know what, Scott, you and I chatted about this a week or 2 ago. Mort, I'm curious to know what your thoughts on this, on the midfield. Because we talked about the center backs being isolated. So when we talk about the midfield, clearly for the most part, we're talking about Ndombele and Højbjerg, who both are both obviously good players that we're lucky to have. Both haven't been in the best form in the past couple of months, but I'm curious to know what you think about the midfield. If you think that's an area that needs to be desperately addressed, like the way that center back does, because it does feel that even with those two guys who both do some really positive things, it feels like we get played through really easily. And so I'm curious to know how much the blame is on, that midfield too, and how much of the fact is like, our wingers don't defend, our center backs are just that poor. I'm just curious to know what you think about the midfield.
I think so. I find Ndombele to be a phenomenally talented player. I think Højbjerg is a very industrious player. I think that if we had a really good back line and those guys were allowed to explore more, I think they'd be even better. I think that when we go forward, we struggle with those two guys because they're too nervous to go forward, right? So I think in that sense, I think they're good players, and I think we should stick with them. I think you bring in a guy like Skip, who, again, Scotty has no clue who that is. You bring a guy like Skip back, and you do invest in another center, or at least somebody who can play center mid, right? So, like a Sabitzer who can play forward and in mid, right? So you can play as an attacking mid, or you can play as a holding mid. You bring in at least another guy like that. So I think we have to I think we do have to address that, Andrew, but not at the same veracity as defense.
No.
Fuck, man. I mean, I agree with you. I think Joe Rodon may be our best defender, but can you imagine Rodon trying to break into a team when Yan and Alderweireld and even Sanchez were firing? Fuck, he probably couldn't get past Kevin Wimmer a few years ago when Wimmer was our fourth choice center back. He couldn't even get past him. So the fact that he is our first choice, it doesn't say as much about his talent. It says about the talent around him.
Totally.
And I think that, right? So I think that I agree that we do need some help in midfield, but I think we need more help in defense. And if we get more help in defense, I think that will make our existing midfield even better. And I think that should be our focus: is invest the money where it's needed, not money in like a reactionary way,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, our defense doesn't cut anything out proactively. Again, Rodon is kind of the one guy that does step in front of a player to cut off a pass.
Right.
Sanchez, and I've said, like, I think Sanchez has been better of late. Obviously, he was a guy that was on my for sure sell list, and I thought he actually had been better. He was really bad yesterday. He was not the only one, but he was bad yesterday. And again, so was Region. Region was terrible. Like, Matt Rich, he beat him for pace like 3 times, right? Like, it's, again, like, you're willing to give Region, a mulligan on that because he has been a big improvement compared to, say, a Ben Davies. Like, I'm not totally convinced Tanganga is a right back, for in the future. But again, like, I'm not writing the guy off either because he's obviously shown a lot of good games. But yeah, Scott, we were just chatting about the midfield and how it's a position we'd love to strengthen, but really having the center backs that we have right now, like, basically just cuts us off at the knees in every position. Like, you could argue that we have the best player in the world in Harry Kane. We have a top 5 player in Son, maybe top 10, maybe top 5 is too high, but 2 elite players, followed by one of the worst defenses in the Premier League, right? Like, that's how far the team has been able to rot. Not buying good players at that position.
Yeah, I mean, like, we still have like a top 4, top 5 defense with like goals conceded.
We do, and that's because of Mourinho, honestly. And boom, thank you, Mort. Right? That's like the theme of today's podcast. But I will say this too: credit to both you guys, because I thought our defense was maybe good enough to compete for the Premier League at the end of the season, and you two were pretty adamant that it wasn't, right? So I got to get that off my chest. But on the midfield, I'll say this, man: I'm not picking on anyone specifically. I'm actually just asking a question, probably here, but. We have dropped a lot of points since Sissoko stopped playing alongside Hoyle. Or Sissoko is the answer at all. I'm asking, like, that is the change. Has our midfield change affected our defense at all? And maybe I'm just asking that rhetorically because I do think I want to talk about the defense. I think that I look at individual errors first. You have Dyer, you have Sanchez, you have Rodon. I'm talking center back here, and you've got Toby. They've all made their fair share of them, right? Even Rodon, he's looked good, but he's definitely made individual errors. You write those off maybe a little bit easier because he's so fresh in his career at Spurs. He's young, whatever, we know that. So, but they've all been there. As Mort said a couple of times, there's a lack of cohesion between any center back partnerships that we've seen. And that's important, right, to talk about, because center back partnerships can really just repeat pretty much almost every match, until that somebody needs the auto rest. But we haven't seen consistency. We haven't seen cohesiveness. I'm not going to act like I would even begin to understand why that is. I trust that Mourinho has a reason for not sticking with a pair. He's trying to figure out what it is for whatever reason. But for all his flaws, Dyer was the one who seemed to help his partner more than anyone else. But he did make a lot of individual errors, and I think that's why he'd been so highlighted, and I myself included was unhappy with his performances. But he did seem to be the one that was helping his partner out more than anyone else. He does tend to be a pretty vocal person who reads the game well, and I think maybe we're missing that a little bit. Now the problem, it's on him because the individual errors kind of played him out of the 11. But we need that. Sanchez looked a little sturdier against him. Even a couple times where Dyer, there was a few times that you guys remember where he didn't jump for a header and on a cross and they scored. But I watched that back over and over, and I think a lot of that was him expecting his partner to do something different. And again, I don't know if that's on him or his partner, but I think some of the individual errors were a lack of that cohesion, but he still seemed to be the one that sturdied the partnership a little bit more than anyone else. So I'm not saying we need Dyer on the pitch, but we need someone to fucking do that.
Eddie, who's
and I think as all these
statistically speaking in the league, who's our best center back partnership?
I still think Dyer and Sanchez maybe, and that was early in the year.
Statistically speaking, it's Toby and Sanchez.
Sanchez. Okay.
In the league, they have conceded the least amount of goals. Dyer doesn't get in there, right? Dyer is he is mistake prone, but more importantly, when he's out there, just because you can yell doesn't mean you're organizing the defense.
Sure, and I'm not saying that that's what he's doing at all. But when I watch him play, and again, you cite the eye test here, right? But he just seems to be able to be in the right position more than anybody else. And maybe I'm wrong, because if you're telling me that Toby and Sanchez have the best record, then maybe that's Toby. It's not Sanchez. We know that.
No. Toby is he's our most steady presence. Hey man, check this out. So against United, let's do this. Let's do Toby, Sanchez. Let's do Serge and Reggie. And in midfield, do Dyer and Ndombele. And let Dyer just fucking wreck shit. And then just put an attacking front four, right? Put Kane, Sonny, Bale, put Gio up there, and let those four eat. And tell Dyer, your job is to break ankles today, right? That's your only job. Get in there, intimidate the midfield. No long balls going over his head. No one's running through him. That's for fuck sure. Let him, maybe that's how he contributes. But at the end of the day, I think Jose has to figure this out, because here's the thing, guys. We say this. There are 8 matches left. That also means there are only 8 matches left. We can't keep drawing. We're going to play a bunch of Newcastles still. And we have to have the confidence that we're going to get 3 points off these teams. Again, now, we only have 1 loss in our last 6 Premier League games. So it's good to keep that in context. And that's precisely why we're not in 8th or 9th. And we're a couple points out of 4th. But I think that's the whole thing here is we have to get this dialed in. We only have 8 matches. We have 8 matches, but it's only 8 matches. And a big one's at the weekend. There's a big one at the weekend. And I think we have to be able to do something. If we lose to this United team at the weekend, then what? Then we have 7 matches to recover probably a 5-point gap, and that's now asking too much, right? So whatever it is, Jose has to figure this out. So remember, it is still his job to figure this out, right? We know the players are shit, but we've also seen the same set of players be in first place in the league, okay? So he has to figure this out. This is on him. He's got to come out, and he's got to, whatever he has to do, whoever he has to move around. We just beat Villa 2-0. So it's not like we can't do these kind of things. We can, but he has to figure this out. He has to set them up. He has to motivate them. And when he sees something slipping, he's got to do something. He's got to make adjustments. People are going to bitch and moan about the way we played. Look at our substitutions. They were all attacking. He was going for the game. He wanted us to get that 3rd goal because he knew the implications of a 2-1 lead. Like he knew in his mind we were going to drop this, and he's like, either A, I can put somebody out there and try to shore this up and we lose, or I can put somebody out there and try to get a third goal, which is exactly what he did with all three of his substitutions. They were all attacking substitutions. So he's got to figure this out, right? So this is on him.
Yeah. And it brings us back to, the ultimate discussion on, the rational versus the fuckies. The fuckies, I was actually fighting with a fuck who's on the side here, which I'm sure a lot of us have done during this call at the same time. Somebody saying that, like, I say, like, well, he did nothing but talk Dele Alli up. And he's like, no, he accused him of being his brother. I'm like, he joked with him, genius. And if you're that triggered by that kind of feedback, the world's going to be really fucking hard for you.
Right,
Anyways, Mort, as we wrap up here, because I want to wrap up before Ryan tries to get on and pollute the podcast with his fuckoosery. But any words of advice for the fuckies or the fan base in general as we close?
Yeah. And I mean, this is, again, right? So, there's a lot of stupid fans out there, and I'm sure we sound stupid to some, and that's fine, right? It's all about perspective. I'm sure there's some fuckies who think we're fuckies. That's perfectly fine. I think that's the beauty of having opinions and
how we expose them.
Having such a
That's right.
Well, I did. You won't, Scotty, because you're a little bitch. You keep hiding. Oh, I won't name and shame them. I will name and shame them on the fucking message thread. I'm gonna start taking screenshots of what you say and start blasting you on social media. If you don't step up.
Look, man, fucking... you don't track shit into your own house, bud. That's just something you don't do. Okay.
That's true. Yeah. So the advice, Andrew, is still the same. It's relax. Look at what's ahead of us, not what's behind us. Because luckily for us, there is still something ahead of us. We're not out of anything. We've won 4 out of our last 6, drawn 1. We've only dropped 4 points out of our last 24. We still have one of the best forms in the league. Woosah, motherfuckers. Fucking woosah. Smoke some weed. Get psyched for this United match. Get behind the club. Support them in whichever way you can. And let's see what happens. We go and we do a job against United, and all these fuckies score right back under the rock where they belong. They've all been super quiet. It's like we had this amazing run in the league. Nobody said shit. We lose to Dinamo. They all come up. We beat Villa. They go away. We draw Newcastle. They all come up. So these fuckies are gonna. That's it. The only way to shut them up is for us to win. And I think that's what we have to do is go out, do a great job against United, and let's circle back and talk about it then, right? Because let's see what happens then, right? And I think that's what we have to do. That's the advice. Perspective, 8 matches left, a lot still left to play for. We have dropped 4 points out of our last 24. Let's fucking get to work. Let's fucking get to work.
Yeah.
Fucking go, man.
What do you think, Scott? Any advice for the fuckies?
Just shut up.
That was
please
that was my wife filling up beers, by the way. So we can tell we both have
what
big
a lovely one.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Somewhere, I don't know where. He'll turn up. He always does.
Yeah.
No, man, honestly, my only advice for a fuck geese is just to stop talking. Like, it's best for everyone, themselves included. Unless, we love our discourse over here. So, as I tell people to shut the fuck up and, well, whatever, man. Come on, you Spurs. We're top 4 in a trophy, Ballon d'Or. Oh, fucking, we're winning the quad next year, as I always say. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right, guys? We're at a League Cup final. We still have 8 games to go, a couple of points out. I mean, again, Europa League wouldn't actually be the worst thing in the world as well to lock that up. It's not the worst competition. I'd happily have won that. But exactly, like, you want to throw a manager out, maybe you'd be happy becoming Sunderland. You can be in League One, and then you can be a Netflix documentary called Tottenham Till I Die. How about that?
Hey, man, some of these guys would take that over Mourinho. Like, no fucking joke. There's somebody out there who would take that over Mourinho.
You're dead serious.
Like, who was that dumb fuck who said that, like he'd rather not win a trophy than play pool? I don't know, like some king fuck who said something like that on social media where it was like, I'd rather not win a trophy playing like this, or some stupid fucking shit. Like that is some stupid shit.
Yes, it is.
What the fuck?
It's just weird, man.
That is loser talk.
Dude, and honestly, that's just it right there, because like, I think the biggest piece of information that just fucked my head yesterday was how long have so many people said, like, our squad is stale, we need competition, we need guys to fight for their place, and then the second the manager says step the fuck up and fight for your place, they're like, no, don't be mean to our players. Like, what? This is it's fucking ridiculous. It's loser ass fucking weak shit, dude.
Totally.
And that is why our team is fucked. Like, players, fans, everybody is just a loser, dude. Like, it's fucking annoying. And just shut up. Let's go fucking win some games.
And I think, again, I don't know if it might have been Nathan. I'm not sure. It was somebody, though, somebody else out there. I don't think it was Nathan, but just saying, like, well, but if your boss talked to you like that, would you be motivated? Like, if I made $100,000 a week and I had no concern that my bills were going to be paid, because play or not, my bills are paid, you're right. I wouldn't act like that much. But, like, if I sucked at my job and got paid that kind of money over and over, made the exact same mistakes over and over again, yes, I would expect my boss to talk shit like that to me.
Yeah. Dude, I've definitely been told by a boss, like, let's fucking go. Like, get your shit going. You know, like, like, Jesus, dude, just shut up. It's so fucking annoying. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, you know what, Ed, really quick, I was thinking about doing this on this pod. So because nobody listens, right? Because we know people are not listening to this. So I'll throw this out there. So the first person who can tweet us the answer to this question, I'll Venmo them $100, right? So, hey man, like the business soul, so we're liquid, baby. So who was the last Premier League player to win the Ballon d'Or, okay? Who was the last Premier League player to win the Ballon d'Or? And if you can tweet us the answer.
Nathan Chadley.
Damn it. I guess I'm Venmoing you. Yeah. I didn't say who should have won the last.
Fair enough.
Right. So somebody can answer that, tweet us the answer, and then we'll be chatting.
All right. Make a point of that.
Let's go.
All right, guys. We got a big match against Manchester United this side. Manchester City. I expect them to. They're all beatable. We can win this match. Let's quiet the fuckies down just a little bit, just for one more week, and then we'll go to a League Cup final on the back of some confidence, and all the fuckies will fly away like the Birdmen. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.